with a grateful heart, give thanks to the Holy One.
Genesis 16. Now Abram's wife Sarai had not borne a child for him. She had an Egyptian servant girl whose name was Hagar. So Sarai told Abram, "You are well aware that the Lord has prevented me from giving birth to a child. Go have sex with my servant, so that I may possibly bear a son through her." Abram listened to Sarai's suggestion, so Abram's wife Sarai took her Egyptian servant, Hagar, and gave her as a wife to her husband Abram. This took place 10 years after Abram had settled in the land of Canaan. He had sex with Hagar, and she became pregnant. When she realized that she was pregnant, she looked with contempt on her mistress. Then Sarai told Abram, "My suffering is your fault. I gave you my servant so you could have sex with her, and when she discovered that she was pregnant, she looked on me with contempt. May the Lord judge between you and me." Abram answered Sarai, "Look, your servant is under your control, so do to her as you wish." So Sarai dealt so harshly with Hagar that she ran away from Sarai. The angel of the Lord found her by a spring of water in the desert on the road to Shur. "Hagar, servant of Sarai," he asked, "where are you coming from and where are you going?" She answered, "I am running away from my mistress Sarai." The angel of the Lord told her, "You must go back to your mistress and submit to her authority." The angel of the Lord also told her, "I will greatly multiply your offspring, who will be too many to count. Look, you are pregnant and will give birth to a son." The angel of the Lord continued to say to her, "You will name him Ishmael, because the Lord has heard your cry of misery. As a man, he'll be uncontrollable. He'll be against everyone will be against him, and he'll live in conflict with all of his relatives." So she called the name of the Lord who spoke to her, "You are God who sees, because I have truly seen the one who looks after me." That's why the spring was called, "The well of the living one who looks after me." It was between Kadesh and Bered. Hagar eventually gave birth to Abram's son. Abram named his son whom Hagar bore Ishmael. Abram was 86 years old when Hagar gave birth to Ishmael for Abram.
Give thanks with a grateful heart, give thanks to the Holy One.
Genesis 17. When Abram was 99 years old, the Lord appeared to Abram and announced, "I am God Almighty. Live in constant awareness that I'm always with you, and be blameless. I'll establish my covenant between me and you, and I'll greatly increase your numbers." Then Abram fell to the ground as God continued speaking to him. "Look, I've made a covenant with you. You will be the father of many nations. Your name is no longer to be Abram. Instead your name will be Abraham, since I'll make you the father of many nations. I'm going to cause you to have many descendants, and I'll bring nations from you. Kings will come from you. I'm establishing my covenant between me and you, and with your descendants who come after you, generation after generation, as an eternal covenant, to be your God and your descendants' God after you. I'll give to you and to your descendants the land to which you have traveled, all the land of Canaan, as an eternal possession. I will be their God. God continued to speak to Abraham, you and your descendants who are born in the future are to keep my covenant, that is, you and your descendants, generation after generation. Here is my covenant that you are to observe, between me and your descendants, every male among you is to be circumcised. You are all to be circumcised in the flesh of your foreskin, and this is to be the sign of the covenant between me and you. Generation after generation, every male among you is to be circumcised on the 8th day after his birth, including the servant born in your house or the one purchased from a foreigner, who is not of your offspring. The servant born in your house or the one purchased with money is to be circumcised. My covenant is to remain in your flesh as an eternal covenant. Any uncircumcised male who does not have the foreskin of his flesh circumcised on the 8th day after his birth is to be eliminated from his people because he has broken my covenant. God told Abraham, as for Sarai your wife, you are not to call her Sarai any longer, because her name is to be Sarah. I will bless her. Furthermore, I will give you a son from her. I will bless her, so that nations, kings, and people will come from her. Abraham fell to the ground, laughed, and told himself, can a child be born to a 100-year-old man? Can a 90-year-old Sarah give birth? So Abraham responded to God, if only Ishmael would live in constant awareness that you're always with him. But God replied, no, but your wife Sarah will give birth to your son, and you are to name him Isaac. I'll confirm my covenant with him as an eternal covenant for his descendants. And as for Ishmael, I've heard you. I'll bless him, and he'll have many descendants. I will multiply him greatly, he'll father 12 tribal leaders, and I'll cause his descendants to become a great nation. Now as to Isaac, I'll confirm my covenant with him, to whom Sarah will give birth as your son at this time next year. With that, God finished talking to Abraham, and ascended, leaving him. Abraham took his son Ishmael and all the servants born in his house or purchased with his money, every male among the men of his household, and circumcised them that very day, just as God had spoken to him. Abraham was 99 years old when he was circumcised, and his son Ishmael was 13 years old when he was circumcised. Both Abraham and his son Ishmael were circumcised on that very day. Every man born in his household, as well as those who had been purchased with money from a foreigner, was circumcised with him.
Give thanks with a grateful heart. Give thanks to the Holy One.
Genesis 18. Later, the Lord appeared to Abraham by the oaks belonging to Mamre. As Abraham was sitting near the entrance to his tent during the hottest part of the day, he glanced up and saw 3 men standing there, not far from him. As soon as he noticed them, Abraham ran from the tent entrance to greet them and bowed low to the ground. "My lords," he told them, "if I have found favor with you, please don't leave your servant. I'll have some water brought to wash your feet while you rest under the tree. I'll bring some food for you, and after that you may continue your journey, since you have come to visit your servant." So they replied, "Very well. Do what you've proposed." Abraham hurried into the tent and told Sarah, "Quick! Take 3 measures of the best flour, knead it, and make some flat bread." Next, Abraham ran to the herd, found a choice and tender calf, and gave it to the young men, who went off in a hurry to prepare it. Then he took curds, milk, and the calf that had been prepared, placed the food in front of them, and stood near them under the tree while they ate. The men asked him, "Where is your wife Sarah?" "There, in the tent," he replied. Then one of them said, "I will certainly return to you in about a year's time. By then, your wife Sarah will have borne a son." Now Sarah was listening at the tent entrance behind him. Abraham and Sarah were old, really old, and Sarah was beyond the age of childbearing. That's why Sarah laughed to herself, thinking, "After I'm so old and my husband is old, too, am I going to have sex?" The Lord asked Abraham, "Why did Sarah laugh and think, am I really going to bear a child, since I'm so old? Is anything impossible for the Lord? At the time set for it, I will return to you, about a year from now, and Sarah will have a son." But Sarah denied it. "I didn't laugh," she claimed, because she was afraid. The Lord replied, "No. You did laugh." After this, the men set out from there and looked out over Sodom. Abraham went with them to send them off. "Should I hide from Abraham what I'm about to do?" the Lord asked, "since Abraham's descendants will become a great and powerful nation, and all the nations of the earth will be blessed through him. Indeed, I've made myself known to him in order that he may encourage his sons and his household that is born after him to keep the way of the Lord, and to do what is right and just, so that the Lord may bring about for Abraham what he has promised." The Lord also said, "How great is the disapproval of Sodom and Gomorrah! Their sin is so very serious. I'm going down to see whether they've acted according to the protests that have reached me. If not, I wish to know." Then 2 of the men turned away from there and walked toward Sodom, while Abraham remained standing in the presence of the Lord. Abraham approached and asked, "Will you actually destroy the righteous along with the wicked? Perhaps there are 50 righteous ones within the city. Will you actually destroy it and not forgive the place for the sake of the 50 righteous that are found there? Far be it from you to do such a thing, to kill the righteous along with the wicked, so that the righteous and the wicked are treated alike. The judge of all the earth will do what is right, won't he?" The Lord said, "If I find 50 righteous people within Sodom, I'll forgive the whole place for their sake. Abraham answered, Look, even though I am only dust and ashes, I ventured to speak to my Lord. What if there are 5 less than 50 righteous ones? Will you bring destruction upon the city because of those 5? The Lord said, I won't destroy it if I find 45 there. Abraham continued to speak to him, asking, What if 40 are found there? The Lord replied, I won't do it for the sake of those 40. Abraham then asked, I hope my Lord will not be angry if I speak. What if 30 are found there? The Lord answered, I won't do it for the sake of those 30. Look, Abraham said, I presume to speak to my Lord, so what if 20 are found there? For the sake of those 20, the Lord responded, I won't destroy it. Finally, Abraham inquired, I hope my Lord will not be angry if I speak only once more. What if 10 are found there? He replied, For the sake of those 10 I won't destroy it. As soon as he finished talking to Abraham, the Lord left and Abraham returned to where he had been sitting.
Give thanks with a grateful heart. Give thanks to the Holy One. We give thanks to